Giannis Antetokounmpo is becoming the best player in the NBA. Giannis is a perfect example of a player who continued to put hard work into their game eventually until they got to the point that they're at today. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy Sports. I make opinionative NBA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it.
I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetic.
Giannis Antetokounmpo was drafted with the number 15 overall selection all the way back in the 2013 NBA draft by the Milwaukee Bucks. And going into that year's draft, Giannis didn't necessarily have all that many offensive skills and was seen as a very raw player. But the reason why Giannis was drafted with the number 15 overall selection was due to the fact that a lot of teams thought Giannis could potentially turn into something. He didn't have all that many skills at that point, but they thought based upon the actual build that he had, very athletic, very long build, that he would potentially be able to get to the point where he'd be a pretty good player. But early on for Giannis, it certainly didn't start off that quickly. In his rookie year, he only put up around 7 points per game on 41% shooting, 4.4 rebounds, and 1.9 assists to his game as well. In his second season, he certainly improved, averaging around 13 points per game on 50% shooting, 6.7 rebounds, and 2.6 assists. In his third season in 2015 is really where he somewhat broke out, where he was averaging around 17 a game on 50% shooting, 7.7 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. Then in the 2016 NBA season, he improved even more, averaging around 23 points on 52% shooting, 8.8 rebounds, and 5.4 assists. Then he just continuously improved each and every season from there. And basically what I'm trying to show is Giannis wasn't necessarily an extremely talented player once he came into the NBA. He had to continuously work very hard on his game each and every offseason, each and every season during the regular year as well, until he eventually made some small improvements to his offensive game. And of course, whenever you make small improvements to your offensive game year after year, when you look back after a few seasons, you're a much better player then than you were in the past. And I think at this point, it's pretty fair to say that Giannis offensively is a very versatile player. So let's quickly look at Giannis's game overall to really describe why I personally think he's the best player in the NBA, or at the very least, he's very close to becoming so. So starting off with Giannis's three-point shooting ability, this season Giannis is only shooting around 30% from three, which of course isn't necessarily good, but when you compare this to what he was shooting earlier on into his NBA career, he's certainly improving pretty significantly, and eventually, as he continues to work on that three-point jump shot, you would expect him to improve even more. But at this point, Giannis clearly has the ability to hit an occasional catch-and-shoot three-point jump shot. He also has a pretty nice pull-up three-point jump shot as well. From time to time, he can cross over into a three-point jump shot, but not necessarily all that often. He's more so just a stationary three-point shooting guy, and of course, as I mentioned, he doesn't necessarily hit a lot of them, but he does hit some of them, especially when they do count in the clutch. But talking about Giannis's mid-range jump shot, at this point I would say Giannis is basically money from that range. Giannis of course has a pretty nice pull-up mid-range jump shot. He has a really nice post turnaround fadeaway within his game, which I mentioned this in a lot of my videos, but especially for a guy like Giannis who's as tall, as athletic, and as long as he is, that post turnaround fadeaway shot is basically unstoppable for him because no NBA defender would ever be able to block that shot or really even get a good contest on it. And if you're as efficient as Giannis has been this season with that post turnaround fadeaway, it's basically an unstoppable shot for a lot of players. But talking about Giannis's ability to drive all the way to the basket, of course this is an ability that he basically had throughout his whole NBA career, but once driving all the way to the basket, of course Giannis has the ability to posterize whatever players in the paint with his crazy athleticism and his crazy wingspan as well as height. But besides that, he also has a great ability to finish around the basket with crafty layups, either his left or right hand, and does a pretty nice job at really outlasting whatever defender is there in the air and finishing layups around them, of course. But also a huge part of Giannis's game once driving all the way to the basket is getting to the free throw line, because most players can't necessarily stop Giannis once driving all the way to the basket, so a lot of times what they would do is foul him a lot. And of course Giannis still at this point isn't necessarily a good free throw shooter or a great free throw shooter, but he is improving upon that each and every year, which is great to see. And eventually, if he can get to the point where he's very consistent from that free throw line, I think he would basically be an unstoppable offensive player in my opinion. There are certain games where he does shoot a very high percentage from the free throw line, and those games he typically plays very well in, of course. But overall, I would like to see him get a little more consistent with that free throw, but I think that's something that is coming as time progresses. But besides Giannis's individual scoring ability, what makes him so special is he's a great passer and playmaker as well, and clearly has the ability to run an NBA level offense. But once driving all the way to the basket, Giannis does a phenomenal job at taking up 2, maybe even 3 defenders at times, and once that happens, he does a great job at kicking out to wide open shooters for easy catch and shoot 3-point jump shots. But even besides that, Giannis clearly has an ability to just survey the defense either at the high post or maybe even at the top of the key, and just find players cutting all the way to the basket for wide open dunks or layups, and overall just run an offense pretty effectively and make his teammates' lives a lot easier. Because a lot of times what happens with great individual scorers is sometimes they're great at scoring for themselves, but once they get doubled, sometimes even triple teamed, they don't necessarily have a great ability to find their teammates for easy open shots, and sometimes they just turn the ball over a lot of the times when they do get double or triple teamed. But when you're talking about a player like Giannis, that's never the case for him. He's obviously a phenomenal passer and playmaker. And of course, on top of all these phenomenal offensive abilities that he has, in terms of his defense, he's also a phenomenal defender and clearly one of the best defenders in the NBA. Giannis has a great ability to play individual defense on basically positions 1 through 5. There's not too many players that he can't guard, but even besides his great individual defense, Giannis also does a phenomenal job at playing great team defense as well. And what I mean by that is Giannis of course has the ability to switch on to whatever defender he needs to, but also when he's off ball, he does a great job at getting some nice weak side blocks, as well as just playing great weak side defense in general, getting in the passing lanes, getting some poke steals as well. And overall, Giannis is just a phenomenal defender, but I think basically everybody already knew that. But we basically knew Giannis was able to do a lot of those things that I mentioned in this video for some time now. But in the past, I didn't necessarily think Giannis was the best player in the league, and the reason being is because during the regular season, Giannis was always phenomenal. He was always one of the best players in the NBA, or the best player, or at least looked like it. But once it actually came down to the NBA playoffs, that's where he really struggled. And the Bucks as a team would never really get as far as people would have expected or would have liked. And of course, that all falls on Giannis' shoulders, as he was of course the best player on that team. And basically a lot of people, including myself, didn't necessarily think that Giannis could get that far once it came down to the playoffs, and he was kind of just a regular season player. But of course, this previous season, Giannis proved basically everyone, including myself, wrong, as of course he went all the way to the NBA Finals and won the Milwaukee Bucks an NBA championship. And in my opinion, the biggest change that Giannis made to make him a better player once it came down to the playoffs was adding that mid-range jump shot within his game, especially that post turnaround fadeaway, as well as just getting a little more consistent from the free throw line. And at this point, due to all the success that he had during the playoffs this previous year and all the success that he had during the regular season, basically each and every season, I think it's pretty fair to say at this point that Giannis at this point is probably the best player in the NBA, or at the very least a top 2 guy in the league. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Giannis is the best player in the NBA, or do you think some other players in the league are a little bit better? Maybe a guy like Nikola Jokic, or maybe Kevin Durant, LeBron James still even? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.
Oh yeah, I work with the medics. I'm about to get you injected. I got a couple connections so I can get you prosthetics. Hope you can't go